this cannot be ignored, as this back half of the season is crucial for evaluating the talent of the young players of this young core group, and frankly make some big decisions in regards to who's going to stay, who's going to be left gone, who's going to be a part of that young contingent of Toronto Raptors players that are going to make their mark with this Toronto Raptors team. And of course, in games like this, despite the fact you lose to the Boston Celtics, a lot of questions start to get answered. Of course, we're more worried about trends rather than just individual one-off games, but there are a couple individual trends that have kind of shaken up the narrative, kind of adjusted where a lot of Raptors fans' mindsets may have been even just a few weeks ago. So we're going to break down what we saw out here in the Celtics game, to where we see a couple of things happening with this Toronto Raptors group that are clearly making decisions a little bit more interesting for Masai Ujiri. And I've already spoken out against the RJ Barrett, trade him narratives. He's not the fit of this future, but there are a bunch of things going on with this Toronto Raptors team, which we have to follow closely in the back half of the season. So lots of stuff to break down in this video, but folks, you guys have been crushing hitting the subscribe button, but I really ask, hit that like button out here on the video. If you're enjoying where this Toronto Raptors team is going, you want to stay up to date with all the latest Toronto Raptors news, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, because we're delivering daily Toronto Raptors coverage. But let's dive into it, because there are some really interesting storylines going on with this Raptors team here right now. Because, taking a look at it, of course, the Toronto Raptors ended up losing to the Boston Celtics 101-111. Bit of a sloppy game, bit of an ugly game, but they were at least able to keep it close. Scottie Barnes, especially in the second quarter, really took over, really did his thing. I know a lot of eyes are probably focused on the Luka Doncic return to the Dallas Mavericks tonight, but we're still locked in. We're still focused on this Raptors squad coming out here and doing their thing in this game. And Scottie, I want to give him credit, especially when he was locked in this game. It was a huge positive. It was a huge thing to look at and be like, okay, that's something I like to see out there from your top dog, your top guy. But RJ Barrett also continues to really show and prove why he's been, even though Scottie Barnes is anointed as the number one option, why RJ Barrett's been your best player over the course of this year. Tonight, 22 points out there for RJ, 10 of 16 shooting from the field, even though it's plus minus a little bit worse than, the rest of the players. He was out there for a couple of those really hot streaks from the Celtics, but also had 8 rebounds, also had 3 assists in this one, and just really efficient doing his thing out there on the basketball court. And those two guys were solid. I thought off the bench, we had some positives from Jamal Shead. The Shead heads are going pretty wild on this one. Now, it might not be just the box score-wise why the Shead heads are going crazy, because it wasn't a crazy box score game for Jamal Shead. You watch it, you look at it, you might say, oh, he missed all his threes. He only had 6 points, but 6 assists, 2 rebounds, 3 of 5 shooting from the field, and really, you can feel his impact. You can feel the impact he has out there on these games, because frankly, he is a dude that is focused, locked in, and changes the momentum of everything that's going on when he steps out there on the basketball court. I'm happy that Jamal Shead is kind of in a position right now to where he is getting minutes, he's getting consistent run for this Toronto Raptors team, and he is looking like he's carving out a real niche for himself out here in the future of this organization. But the big debates, and I've seen in our comment section, it's going to be a big topic of discourse over the back half of the season. It's, what's Masai Ujiri going to do in the offseason when things get a little bit more expensive and you have to make some decisions out there on RJ Barrett, Gradey Dick, who's going to be in the starting lineup? Of course, Gradey Dick provides some more three-point shooting in theory, but is RJ Barrett that guy? I'm not going to go into another tirade. I'm not going to go out here on this video and be like, hey, repeat all the things I've been saying as of late, for this Toronto Raptors team. No need of it. But looking at tonight's game, because this was not the greatest performance from IQ, neither Gradey Dick in this one. And, 32 minutes, even though he did have 12 points, the defense looked glaringly weak for Gradey Dick in this one. And I do want to bring up IQ, who's had a roller coaster of a season with injuries and then up and down performances. It was a bad game from IQ. Bad game from IQ, bad game from Gradey Dick. Again, you're facing off against the Boston Celtics, so it is a tough matchup. But a couple of weeks ago, leading into the trade deadline, of course, the Raptors did end up making a big blockbuster move. But leading the trade deadline, there was a bunch of chatter about stuff like this. The Raptors remain fully committed to a rebuild featuring fourth-year wing Scottie Barnes as a cornerstone, and they've seen enough from second-year guard Gradey Dick to convince them the 21-year-old piece is a long-term fit. The Raptors are looking for a significant piece to pair with Barnes. Of course, traded for Brandon Ingram, but once these types of things were dropping leading into the trade deadline, it was RJ Barrett's name who was the first guy getting brought up in all these trade discussions, all these trade talks, all this trade chatter, and I can't wrap my head around. I couldn't really wrap my head around it right there, but really in tonight's game, he has to be swaying some people over, because you look at this season and you see RJ Barrett. He has been consistent. He's been a monster at home. He's averaging 22 points per game, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. 36% from behind the three-point line. He's 6'6", he's 24. That dude is a beast. He plays the shooting guard position. He has been awesome out here for the squad, and night in, night out has been our most consistent guy this entire year. Now, I'm big on not wanting to limit the potential of Gradey Dick. I also am very, very high on him, and even though he's having a bad night, had a bad night tonight, especially in the defense end, I think in general he's been a very effective in terms of developing, in terms of trying to get better every single game, and he brings the hustle, he brings the energy, even though he does get blown by, even though there are moments where he does get exposed in the defensive end. I don't think it's from a lack of trying. I don't think he's a guy that's completely zero upside out there on the defensive end. He's not like a Kyle Korver-esque defender where he's never going to really get there. I think Gradey Dick has shown a lot on that end of the floor. I think he's shown the ability to really get into that area. But if we're considering a debate between Gradey Dick and RJ Barrett, if this is what Masai Ujiri has to decide upon, I mean, the RJ Barrett, he's a little bit older, so that is something to factor in, but he's still super young. He's proven he can be an option one scorer when he's proven he can be effective, role player guy out there. If, Scottie Barnes, Brandon Ingram, these guys are back into the mix. He doesn't really command the ball, he's not a ball stopper like a prime Carmelo Anthony or anything along those lines, but he's hustling out there in the defensive end. He's more athletic than Gradey Dick. He has his ups and downs in defense as well, but I don't know. RJ Barrett has shown all this, and in theory, the argument for Gradey Dick is, hey, he's a better shooter to pair alongside Scottie Barnes. That's the big thing. He's more of a natural, pure jump shooter. He can come off cuts a little bit better. It's all these types of things. But the fact of the matter is, we're looking at RJ Barrett's stats. He's shooting 36% from the three-point line this season, 43% corner threes. Obviously, he's branded as more of a slasher, attacking the rim. Was an inconsistent three-point shooter over the course of his career. Gradey Dick is shooting a worse three-point percentage on this team, and is shooting worse from corner threes. RJ Barrett is shooting, because again, the corner three is the more spot up, natural three-point shot. Like Gradey Dick, he's shooting a lesser percentage out there on both of those areas comparative to RJ Barrett. Now, Gradey Dick, of course, is young. This is not me having a slander session on Gradey Dick. What this is I'm just not in that camp of where I'm just like, hey, we need to really sell the farm. We need to sell off of this proven commodity of RJ Barrett just to open things up a little bit more for Gradey Dick, the shooting wise, all this type of thing. I'm just not that sold on those types of arguments. In games like this, you just see the value of an RJ Barrett and why he can't just be tossed around, thrown around for scraps in all these trade packages and all these trade discussions and everything that's getting thrown out there in terms of what's going on. So that's kind of my thoughts, my opinions on everything that's happening. Of course, that's the big narrative that's going to be discussed and leading into the offseason, all this type of thing. I mean, the Rooks had a solid game in this one as well. Like, Ochai Abaji's not a Rook, but, younger players. Jakob Poeltl, Chris Boucher off the bench. The bench wasn't actually that bad. It was really, you want to see more from Gradey Dick, Immanuel Quickley, and Jonathan Mobo out there in the starting lineup. But that is what it is. Interesting stuff happening. I just can't ignore this type of discussion, this discourse with what's happening with this team. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with everything that's going on with this Toronto Raptors team. Anyways, you guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.